The oceans today are beautiful, but ancient oceans were a literal nightmare factory. Millions of years ago, you were never more than a second away from a giant killer. Let's dive down into the most terrifying ocean in Earth's history.
Welcome to the home of predators that made the great white look like bait. This is the Cretaceous Ocean, an ecosystem engineered entirely for slaughter. Every animal here was heavily armored, fast, or masterfully camouflaged. But visibility was low, and the shadows hid the real monsters. Unveiling the ocean's supreme dictator, the mighty Mosasaurus. A 50-foot marine reptile that ruled with an iron, blood-soaked grip. It hunted by ambushing its victims from the blind spots of the abyss. And its double-hinged jaws could swallow massive prey whole. Crushing thick bone armor like a fragile potato chip. The scent of blood triggered a terrifying chain reaction in the deep. To escape the larger monsters, smaller predators descended into the trenches, plunging 7 miles down into the absolute midnight zone, where crushing water pressure and total darkness conceal prehistoric horrors.
In this lightless desert, animals evolved bizarre biological traits.
Heartbeat.
They would strip a multi-ton beast to the bone in seconds.
Leaving the evidence of their carnage on the seafloor. Welcome to the ultimate graveyard of Earth's history, where the bones of extinct gods rest in the mud. But something was still nesting inside the graveyard. A predator so dominant, it didn't need to hunt actively. It spent centuries resting, perfectly camouflaged as the trench wall, until a faint vibration woke it up. Realizing the cave you were looking at was actually looking right back at you. Run! The ancient lord of the abyss has awakened. Its jaw alone could swallow a naval submarine whole, creating an inescapable vortex that drags you into the black. Catastrophic, absolute destruction in a split second. 100,000 years ago, Earth became an uninhabitable, frozen wilderness. A sudden, violent climate shift triggered a relentless global freeze.
Temperatures plummeted to -100 degrees within days, catching life completely off guard.
And the planet itself began to warp under the crushing weight of the ice. Welcome to the absolute peak of the Great Ice Age. The world was completely stripped of its green paradise, transformed into a barren tomb. To survive here, creatures had to carry a mountain of muscle and fat. The Woolly Mammoths. walking fortresses engineered to endure the apocalypse. Wielding 15-foot curved tusks, they carved paths through the deep snowdrifts. But relentless hunger drove the deadly predators into absolute madness. In the freezing wilderness, a single mistake meant freezing to death. The laws of nature were reduced to pure, visceral survival. Even liquid blood could not withstand the ambient freeze for long. Global sea levels plummeted as the water was locked inside the glaciers, creating frozen bridges between continents that had been separated for millennia.
But walking the frozen oceans carried a terrifying risk of sudden implosion.
Trapping marine life inside a permanent, glass-like tomb.
As the freeze worsened, animals were forced to seek shelter underground. And a new, hairless species was following the exact same instinct.
The thinned ice of the geothermal lakes became challenging obstacles.
One wrong step, and you were dragged down into the freezing deep.
Screaming in a lightless, airless, watery grave as the ice seals above, preserving the specimen perfectly for millions of years.
The predators lost their meals to the ice, turning the tundra into a starvation zone.
Plunging the uninhabitable wilderness into a freezing cosmic night.
Painting the sky in colors of haunting, cold cosmic majesty.
A beautiful, dead world floating silently in space.
Small mammals managed to survive by burning calories at impossible rates.
But when the frost reached the deepest burrows,
even the deepest underground tunnels became inescapable flash freeze chambers. Earth had officially reached its absolute lowest biological threshold. The massive megafauna populations began to gradually decline across the globe.
When the giant fell, it meant the end of an entire bloodline. Nature instantly buried its titans, leaving no trace behind.
For thousands of years, the Earth remained locked in this icy coma. The massive ice sheets carved out entirely new continental valleys.
Moving with the force of an unstoppable geologic tank.
Shaking the planet's foundations as the ice fractured.
The deep trenches became the final sanctuaries for life.
Sharks and marine predators adapted to the low temperatures.
But tectonic activity beneath the ice sheet was about to boil the seas.
Underwater volcanoes began a massive, global pushback against the freeze.
With the ghosts of the past, waking up face to face with the monsters of the ice. Escaping the dark, only to run directly into a global blizzard.
The environment was collapsing under its own frozen mass.
tearing the landscape apart as the climate prepared for a massive shift. The grand finale of the planet's great freeze.
For 10,000 more years, the Earth remained a silent white tomb.
Until the orbital tilt of the planet slowly brought the sun back.
And with that single drop, the great global thaw had officially begun. And life proved its absolute, unbreakable resilience once again.
The sun melted the glaciers, carving out the modern world. Creating the Great Lakes and fertile plains we populate today. Leaving the bones of the ancient giants behind in the dirt.
The survivors stepped out of the underground to claim an empty paradise. With the cold killers gone, mammals evolved to dominate the food chain.